This necromancer boy finds a woman's corpse in a store. It's missing a leg and an arm. He buys it with all the money he has saved. He attaches an artificial arm and leg to her. Then, he performs a resurrection ritual on the woman's body. Unexpectedly, the woman's soul returns to her body after the ritual. Seeing the corpse talking, the boy gets scared. The same happens with the newly alive corpse. Instantly, the boy points a cleaver at her. This alerts her instincts. She responds with a Saitama-like one punch. Later, the boy wakes up tied to a chair. The woman tells him her legs caused her to lose balance, and she missed the punch. She warns that next time, there won't be a miss. The boy tells her that, currently, the nation of necromancers hold a tournament. Necromancers fight with their undead and earn rewards. He's been trying for the last 10 years, but has failed every time. People treat him like trash and garbage in the name of necromancers. He just wants to tear them apart. But the woman tells him she actually has a huge debt of 80 billion gold on her, which she must repay. That's why, after dying, her body also got sold. The boy shows her the current prize of the tournament is 100 billion gold. After some haggling, the boy reluctantly accepts her stubborn demand of 95%. He asks her to wear a mask so no one can recognize that she is alive. What is the story behind the strange corpse, and how powerful is it? Will our protagonist achieve his dream and live the life he has always longed for? That is what we will discover in today's tale. Our story begins with a peculiar-looking individual. His eyes are filled with determination. He gestures with his fingers in a specific manner. He calls out to another person named Hector. He urges him to let the world witness their power. The enormous creature lunges forward with immense force. Another monstrous entity stands against it. This one is composed of countless intertwined fingers, each adorned with eyes and sharp fangs. Another individual stands at an equal elevation. It soon becomes clear that this person is controlling the monster through gestures and commands. He instructs it to unleash the poisonous tongue and explode with full force. The creature's fingers begin to shift and unfold, revealing a long, crimson tongue coiled tightly within. In an instant, the tongue shoots out like a devastating explosion. It hurtles at high speed toward the monster under Hector's control. In this world, sorcerers possess the ability to manipulate the corpses of the dead. They turn them into warriors that fight on their behalf. These individuals are known as necromancers. The combat performances they orchestrate using these reanimated corpses have become the most famous and widely celebrated sport. Amidst the enthusiastic crowd, watching the spectacle, a young boy observes the battle with wide-eyed fascination. He watches the struggle between the necromancers' controlled corpses, unable to believe his eyes, astonished by the incredible feats they achieve. 17 years later, in the city of necromancers, these fierce battles between monstrous entities continue. Elsewhere, the boy, now grown, attempts to practice magic, striving to reanimate a corpse through finger gestures and incantations. He calls upon the corpse, addressing it as the night, commanding it to rise, defy death, and pledge eternal loyalty to him. A black crystal rests within the corpse's chest. The crystal begins to emit a brilliant red glow, intensifying until it resembles an explosion. The creature stirs, shifts its position, and slowly begins to rise. But suddenly, cracks form across the red crystal, and in an instant, it shatters. The creature ceases all movement, returning to an inert, lifeless state, leaving our protagonist disheartened as he realizes he has failed. Once again, he gazes at the lifeless form, certain that the muscle density and skeletal structure are perfectly balanced, and that the reconstruction of the central nervous system was successfully completed. Yet, he stands in uncertainty, saddened to find himself back at square one after believing he was close to fulfilling his dream. In another scene, our protagonist is seen scrubbing bathrooms, his frustration evident. His superior calls out his name, OCO, revealing the protagonist's identity, and instructs him to clean a section he had overlooked. OCO replies that he will, though his boss notices that he seems distracted as he walks away. OCO catches sight of advertisements for an upcoming corpse battle tournament, noting the massive number of participants and the exceptionally large prize money. Elsewhere, a group of students gathers as their instructor teaches them the fundamentals of necromancy, explaining that controlling corpses requires precise finger movements and powerful vocal commands. Outside the classroom, OCO, while mopping the floor, listens intently to the lesson, absorbing every word the instructor and students recite. At that moment, his supervisor appears, calling him angrily for being late with deliveries. But Osio remains engrossed in the lecture, unfazed by his tardiness. Later, he is seen sprinting through the streets with delivery parcels in hand, while reading his notebook. About the harpy's talons, noted for their steel-like hardness, as they are not composed of keratin, but of a mineral-based protein compound. He continues reading, discovering that he must connect the nerves to the muscles, with the first step being to attach the talons base to the upper arm muscles. While engrossed in reading the instructions, he is suddenly startled by a voice calling out to him. He turns to see who it is. He is struck hard across the face. At that moment, it becomes clear that the one who hit him is a combat corpse, accompanied by the girl who owns it. She immediately begins scolding him. "I asked you politely to leave the city for good," she reminds him. She is not alone. Another sorcerer stands by her side. He turns to her and asks, "Is this the scum of the man you mentioned before?" She confirms, he is indeed the one. She then continues, "Oco was born in a garbage dump and grew up among the filth from which he came." At this, Oco glares at her with intense anger, not only because of the blow from her fighter and the humiliation in her words, but also because of her decision to expel him from the entire city. Yet, he remains silent and does not respond. However, the man accompanying her questions, "How could a person survive on trash?" She replies, "Oco's father had also lived off garbage." She goes on to say that Oco must have inherited that trait from his father, who was not a normal human by any means, just a worthless piece of trash. She then adds, "Merely looking at him disgusts me, and I cannot comprehend why he is still in the city." At this moment, Oco's anger reaches its peak. He shouts at her, declaring, "I am not trash. It does not matter where I was born or how I was raised." Clenching the paper he holds tightly in his fist, he asserts, "The only person who has the right to determine my fate is myself. No one else." The girl smirks mockingly and asks, "Do you truly believe that becoming a necromancer will change how people see you and make them accept you?" Suddenly, Oco is struck again, knocking him to the ground. Her massive corpse restrains him as she continues speaking. "You do not even have a night of your own, yet you speak of matters far beyond your capability, despite spending 10 years trying and still failing to animate a single corpse." The creature presses harder against his head as the girl tells him to leave the city, claiming that his mere presence makes it reek. She then fixes her gaze on him and warns, "If I ever see your face in the city again, I will not be as lenient as I was now. I will turn you into actual trash." At that moment, it becomes clear that the first person to ever utter the words Oco just spoke about one's birth and upbringing not determining their fate was the renowned sorcerer Raphael. Raphael had grown up poor and orphaned, and when he entered the corpse wars, he did so alone, yet he managed to set records and secure 6 consecutive victories. His achievements made him the most famous human participant in the corpse wars worldwide. As for Oco, his greatest dream was to become like Raphael, to be the best in his field, if only for once in his life. He longed for fame and to witness people clapping for him in admiration and awe of his abilities. Lost in his thoughts and dreams, he suddenly hears his father's voice echoing in his mind. "Do you truly believe you can achieve your ambitions?" The voice questioned, reminding him that he is nothing more than worthless trash. The day passes. The scene shifts to the following day. Oco finds himself in a shop selling materials for necromancers. He begins inspecting the tools he needs, but notices that the quality of the merchandise that day is poor. Nothing seems useful. However, something catches his eye, a corpse lying alone in one of the shop's rooms. It is a female corpse, but it is missing its left arm and right leg. "What about this corpse?" Oco asks the shopkeeper. The man replies, "It is merely a leftover piece, soon to be discarded." Oco then questions, "Even a human corpse is something you would throw away?" The shopkeeper explains, "It is somewhat special. It had been put up for sale a year ago and had already been purchased 13 times, yet every time the sorcerer who acquired it failed to animate it, leading to its return to the shop." Oco explains, "Corpses that sustain damage eventually become as hard as stone before shattering. Why has this corpse remained intact?" The shopkeeper responds, "This corpse has never been animated before." He clarifies, "While rare, such cases are not impossible. Every few years, corpses with such defects appear." The shopkeeper then steps closer to Oco and asks, "Are you interested in purchasing it? We were going to dispose of it anyway, so I'm willing to sell it to you at an extremely low price on one condition, that you never bring it back. OCO considers his words, but soon notices that the corpse's hand looks rather unusual. What about the hand? He asks the shopkeeper. The man replies, it is quite special. However, I cannot disclose all the details as the laws prohibit me from doing so. Nevertheless, I have heard that this corpse once belonged to a well-known mercenary fighter. He continues, there are rumors that she could destroy anything with a single strike, but in the end, the corpses of warriors are nothing more than tools. They possess no thoughts or awareness, so whatever their identity was before death, it no longer matters. OCO hesitates for a moment before telling him, I do not need such a corpse, as it has failed to be animated 13 times already. Taking it would be a gamble. The shopkeeper responds, I completely understand. He even agrees, remarking, trash will always remain worthless trash. Upon hearing these words, OCO freezes in place, lost in thought. He recalls all the insults he had endured. Yet, he does not make a decision immediately. The scene then shifts to show OCO pulling a wooden cart behind him. He admits to himself, I bought the corpse. I spent every last coin I had, leaving myself with nothing. Not even enough to buy food for the next day, let alone pay next week's rent. When he arrives home, he opens the crate containing the corpse. He reflects on how he had thought his attempts were over and that he had no more chances left. Yet, he begins repairing its damaged parts, using pieces from other corpses to replace the missing limbs. As he works, he realizes that, for some reason he cannot explain, he wants to give this corpse another chance. And so, he completes its body once again. Looking at it, he recalls how the shopkeeper called it trash. However, he decides that none of that matters. He assures himself, we will succeed together and form an unrivaled team. At that moment, he begins casting his magic, moving his fingers as he chants the words to bring the corpse to life. He is convinced that they will become the most famous duo in the world, with crowds cheering for them. Suddenly, a bright light fills the room, and the corpse begins to move, before sitting upright in front of OCO. In that instant, he can hardly believe it. He has finally succeeded in reviving a corpse that had resisted animation 13 times before. However, what shocks and terrifies him even more is that the corpse looks at him as if it is thinking, then expresses confusion about its existence, and is before asking, who are you? At that moment, OCO screams in terror, prompting the corpse to scream as well upon seeing his reaction. Both continue screaming, neither making an effort to understand what is happening. Their screams persist, and in his panic, OCO grabs a large knife and points it at the corpse, demanding to know, how could a corpse possibly speak? But the moment the corpse's eyes land on the knife in OCO's hand, it senses danger. This causes the red light within the crystal embedded in its body to glow intensely, spreading throughout its entire form. OCO tries speaking to it again, but suddenly he is struck by a powerful blow that sends him flying out of the room. The scene transitions into OCO's thoughts where his father appears once more, mocking him and questioning whether he truly believes he could ever become a necromancer. He then jeers at him, saying that he should stop chasing illusions, adding that his mother was trash as well, and was the reason his life was ruined. He goes on to declare that the son of trash will always remain trash. No matter how hard he tries, he will never amount to anything of value, nor will he ever become famous or well-known. Simply put, he will always be nothing more than garbage. At that moment, OCO wakes up, screaming. He is terrified by the nightmare that had just plagued him. After a few moments of stillness, he gathers his thoughts. He tells himself that it was just a dream, the same nightmare he always has, and that surely none of it was real. After all, a corpse could not possibly speak. But suddenly, as he lifts his gaze, he sees the corpse. It is sitting right in front of him on the same table, speaking to him once again. It tells him that he should consider himself lucky to still be alive. She then explains that her right leg is not functioning properly, which is why her strike was not precise enough to finish him off completely. At that moment, OCO is struck with shock once more. He realizes that this is no dream, it is reality. He lets out another loud scream before collapsing to the ground. The corpse, however, scolds him, demanding that he lower his voice. She says his noise is irritating her. His astonishment grows when he realizes that his hands and feet are bound to the chair he is sitting on. He asks the corpse what she has done to him, and what she intends to do next. She stares at him before saying that he is the one who should be answering questions, as she wants to know what he has done to her body. After a brief silence, she narrows her eyes at him, then raises her hand threateningly, warning that if he does not answer her questions, she will not miss her next strike. Osio glances at the wall that was shattered by her attack, observing the destruction she caused. He quickly decides it is best to explain everything to her, and so he tells her the full story, leading her to realize that he is a necromancer. She then comments that at least he is not some lunatic or deviant. This surprises him, prompting him to ask why she would assume that. She gestures toward their surroundings, but suddenly pauses, fully grasping what that implies. That she had indeed been dead. She then continues, saying that in any case, she appreciates being brought back to life, but she would rather they never meet again. With that, she turns to leave. However, Osio calls out to her, demanding that she stop. He tells her that she will not be able to move properly, because the left arm and right leg he attached to her are not originally hers. He then adds that he is the only one who can make them function, as he is the necromancer who revived her. She questions what he means by that, and Osio explains that no matter how powerful she may be in her current state, she definitely needs his help. However, upon hearing his words, she bursts into laughter. Scoffing at the mere idea, she then, without hesitation, grabs a knife. She begins cutting off the leg he had attached. She keeps going until she severs it completely. Standing on just one foot, she holds the knife in her hand and boldly declares herself to be Eleonora, the strongest and most beautiful warrior in the world. She then asserts that, whether she has 2 legs or not, she will never need his help or anyone else's. With that, she turns to leave. Osio stands there, bewildered, desperately searching for a way to make her stay. In that instant, an idea strikes him. He immediately calls out to Eleonora, telling her that he wants to hire her. This causes her to pause and listen to his proposal. He reminds her that she was a mercenary, meaning she fought for money, and that even after death, her body was sold. This means she must be in dire need of money, so he offers her a job to fight alongside him. Eleonora looks at him with curiosity, commenting that he is quite an interesting person, and that he is right. So long as the pay is good, she will do whatever is required, without asking questions, and she will never refuse a fight. She then reveals that she is burdened with an enormous debt, far greater than he could possibly imagine, and that she must repay it, which is why she so desperately needs money. At that, Osio smirks and tells her that he will pay her 80 billion gold coins. He then asks if that amount is enough to clear her debts. Eleonora responds that it might be, but she then asks whether he actually has that much money. Instead of answering, he poses another question, asking if she knows the prize money for this year's corpse war. He then pulls out the competition's announcement and shows it to her. She reads it and sees that the cash prize is 100 billion gold coins. Stunned, she asks if that number is real. Osio confidently confirms that it is, explaining that corpse war has become the most famous sport in the entire world. Eleonora pauses for a moment, recalling that she had never possessed any talent for necromancy. Because of that, she had never paid attention to things that held no benefit for her. Osio asks if she has decided to join him, pointing out that, since she is a combat corpse, it will be easier for them to enter the competition, as long as they manage to hide the fact that she is conscious and capable of thought and feeling. He then adds that if she truly claims to be the strongest and greatest warrior, then together they should have no difficulty achieving victory. With growing enthusiasm, he continues, assuring her that their names will become famous and that crowds will cheer for them everywhere they go. However, Eleonora tells him that she does not care about fame. "Will you indeed pay me 80% of the prize money as you promised?" she asks. Osio confirms that this is true, considering it a very generous share. "I insist on taking 95%, Eleonora states firmly. "No." Osio immediately refuses. "I have incurred expenses, including the cost to the materials I used, along with other expensive necessities." He proposes giving her 85%, but she remains firm on 95%. He tries to negotiate, suggesting 92%, but she rejects it again, insisting on 95% once more. In the end, Osio explodes in frustration and agrees to give her the percentage she demands. Eleonora smiles. "You shouldn't be upset about losing to me," she says. "After all, I am an expert in negotiation and bargaining." She then requests that they put the agreement in writing. "I do not trust verbal promises without official documentation," she explains. With that, the deal is finalized, leaving both of them seemingly satisfied. Later, Osio reattaches the leg Eleonora had cut off. "Can you walk properly now?" he asks. I'm the one controlling your movement, after all. Eleonora, now wearing an eerie mask, replies, "You are moving too fast. You need to slow down." Osio responds, "Controlling a corpse is not easy for me, especially since this is the first time I have ever succeeded in doing so." Eleonora asks about the strange mask he made her wear and why she has to keep it on. "This is one of the fundamental rules for necromancers when using human corpses," he explains. "The face must be covered to prevent recognition." He stresses, "Just as I have told you multiple times, no one must know you are conscious. It will be better and easier for you that way." Eleonora does not like this rule and protests, "My face is unique and valuable." Osio quickly warns her to stop talking while they are walking in public. "Combat knights do not speak. They only move," he reminds her. Suddenly, the same girl who had tormented him earlier appears again, accompanied by her companion in a group of knights. "I warned you before," she calls out to him. "If I saw you again, I would eliminate you." Osio feels irritated by her presence. Eleonora asks, "Who is she, and why is she acting so hostile toward you?" "Do not interfere," he tells her. "I will handle it myself." However, the girl notices Eleonora and mockingly asks Osio, "Is this the night you finally managed to revive someone after 10 years of failure?" She then sneers, "The thing you brought back looks pathetic, just like you, and is hideous beyond belief." This enrages Eleonora. The bully laughs, adding, "After seeing this thing you own, I'm now even more eager to witness your humiliation and defeat in the competition." For now, she will let him be. But suddenly, a mocking voice responds to her, pointing out how confidently she speaks despite looking as frail as skin and bones. The girl stops laughing and turns to Osio, demanding to know what he just said. At that moment, Osio whispers to Eleonora, reminding her that he had asked her to remain silent. She retorts, irritated, saying that his request is getting on her nerves. The bully then asks Osio directly if he was the one who made that comment. After a brief hesitation, he admits that he did. He then asks if she has a problem with that, before calling her skin and bones, repeating Eleonora's words. The girl's anger flares, and she lunges at him with her knight, screaming that she will kill him on the spot. Osio and Eleonora prepare for battle. Eleonora instructs him to control her right leg properly. At the very moment, the bully's knight launches an attack on them. Eleonora counters with an incredibly powerful strike, using her original arm, shocking everyone present. We learn that the bully's name is Kalina, and that since childhood, she had possessed an exceptional talent for magic, surpassing everyone else. She was able to achieve average results with minimal effort, which led her to view other sorcerers as incompetent. She often mocked others, claiming that she could perform magic that they could not even attempt, and with far less effort. With her continuous victories, she grew to despise those beneath her level, treating them with arrogance and condescension. This was the only thing that brought her joy. Naturally, someone like Osio, who had always put in the effort despite growing up among garbage, yet remained inferior to her in every way despite his struggles, was the perfect target for her bullying. But at this moment, Osio realizes that he had been nothing more than an easy prey for her. Now he sees Kalina standing in shock at what had just happened. We discover the reason for her astonishment when we see that Eleonora, with a single strike of her hand, has completely destroyed Kalina's ferocious knight. Her companion is equally stunned, wondering how it was possible to annihilate it in just one blow. He observes that there is nothing left intact of the knight, and exclaims that this is impossible. Kalina screams that it cannot be. There's no way she could lose, and even worse, lose to someone like Osio, that lowly. But before she can finish, Osio interrupts her, asking if she has a problem. She glares at him in fury, then shifts her hateful gaze to Eleonora, but finds herself at a loss for words. Enraged, she storms off while Osio feels overwhelming joy at finally defeating Kalina and utterly crushing her knight. Afterward, Osio and Eleonora return home. Osio exclaimed, "We were lucky this time, but it was an incredibly dangerous situation." He explained to her, "Fighting outside the competition is strictly forbidden, and you could have been exposed and recognized." Eleonora gave him a questioning look, asking, "Do you now believe you are in a position to issue commands and dictate what I should or should not do?" Osio glared at her in frustration, but did not answer immediately. Instead, he clarified, "I am not giving orders. I am making a request." He acknowledged, You are undoubtedly the best in combat, but I am the one most familiar with the corpse wars and has extensive experience with them. He then brought up her previous men and the enormous debt she was trying to repay, emphasizing, in order to do so, we must avoid taking such reckless risks. Eleonora considered his words and agreed, promising, I will try to follow your advice. She then asked, what's our next step? Oco told her, we need to register as contestants in the competition. He explained, the officials will test you on a few basic skills. Then, looking at her anxiously, he wondered aloud, will she be able to pass those tests? Scene transition. Oco led Eleonora to the committee responsible for the competition. However, her movements appeared strange and sluggish. The committee members took notice, visibly puzzled, until one of them asked, is she at least capable of running? Oco attempted to assist her by controlling her right leg, but it did not move properly, making her gait look utterly ridiculous. The committee members watched her awkward movements in stunned silence, unable to come up with a suitable comment. After a full minute of complete stillness, the committee chairman finally declared, her movements are indeed unnatural. However, he acknowledged, she is capable of performing the basic requirements, and we need more contestants for the weaker divisions. Based on this, he approved their application, officially making Oco a participant in the corpse wars. Scene transition. Oco stood before a mirror, dressed in his competition uniform. He felt a surge of happiness. When Eleonora saw him, she noted his obvious excitement and sarcastically remarked, your expression makes your enthusiasm painfully clear. He responded, of course I am thrilled. I have been waiting for this moment for 17 years. Eleonora, still amused, mockingly stated, I am so deeply moved that I am on the verge of tears. She then pointed at her leg, asking, when do you plan to properly adjust its movement? She warned him, if you force me to walk in this ridiculous manner any longer, I might have to cut off the leg you control and simply walk on one leg again. Oco quickly rejects that idea, pointing out that while she may be able to defeat humans with just one leg, the knights are monsters. Far superior to humans in strength, there is no way she could defeat them on one leg alone. Eleonora yells at him, demanding that he hurry up and adjust her movement properly, insisting that he is not controlling her correctly at all. Oco shouts back just as loudly, explaining that this is her body, not his. How am I supposed to balance the part one attached with your original body? He asks. Have you even tried to coordinate your movement with mine? Eleonora yells at him again, questioning why she should be the one to adapt to his control. After all, I am Eleonora, the one who... But before she can finish, the loudspeakers interrupt, announcing that the opening ceremony of the competition is about to begin and that all contestants must head to the battlefield immediately. At that moment, Oco tells her that they will continue this discussion later. He then instructs her to put on the mask immediately, emphasizing the importance of keeping her face hidden to avoid recognition for security reasons. Although clearly annoyed, Eleonora puts on the mask, and the two of them proceed together to the arena where the rest of the contestants are gathered. There, Eleonora takes notice of the combat corpses surrounding her, finding them extremely bizarre, each one more grotesque than the last. Meanwhile, Oco focuses on finding their assigned spot, knowing that their number is 7,508. Once he locates it, he takes his position alongside Eleonora. However, Eleonora remains preoccupied with the monstrous figure standing behind them. She nudges Oco, informing him that there is a particularly strange individual right behind them with things coming out of his mouth. Oco, however, warns her not to make a fuss and to keep her eyes fixed forward. He cautions her that if she causes any trouble here, she will find herself in serious danger, and the consequences will not be favorable for her. As they stand there, the opening ceremony begins. A voice echoes across the arena, declaring that names are eternal, even though the human body is weak and fleeting. We then see the speaker as he continues his speech, stating that some names remain in people's memories for decades. He adds that there are names remembered for hundreds of years, and others immortalized for thousands, for they are the ones who achieve true eternity. He goes on to express his hope that in this war, a player will emerge whose name will be remembered forever. Then he extends his hand toward the contestants, addressing the 8,304 players before him. Are all the great necromancers prepared for this brutal battle? In unison, the sorcerers respond, we are. He then asks passionately, Are you willing to dedicate your hearts and souls to securing a victory that will etch your names into history for thousands of years? Again, the players, including OCO, respond in unison, affirming their full readiness. At that moment, the speaker smiles. Then I officially declare the start of the 145th Corpse War. The players erupt into cheers, celebrating the competition's launch. He raises his hand, halting the celebrations. I will now explain the details of the first preliminary round. This round is of utmost importance as it serves to introduce new players to the audience. It will result in the elimination of 20% of the players based on their performance. Its structure is based on random matchups. The first sorcerer to secure 2 victories will advance, while the first to suffer 4 losses will be eliminated. Some sorcerers appear confident in their ability to secure 2 wins and move forward. The weaker ones hope to last through 5 matches without being disqualified. The speaker begins selecting players for the matchups. He points toward OCO. The player standing on the black line will be facing the player directly behind him. Slowly, OCO turns around to see who is standing behind him. He finds someone laughing with overwhelming enthusiasm, his face beaming with excitement. My luck is incredible. My first opponent in the competition. He looks at OCO confidently. I will allow you to witness the absolute beauty I have managed to create. OCO stands firm, listening to his words, staring at him with a challenging gaze, yet he does not respond. I recognize that look all too well. I have seen it many times before. I know that you find me ugly and repulsive. Everyone I have ever met has viewed me the same way. However, once they see the masterpiece I have created, they always admit that it is. Before he can finish, OCO interrupts him. I had actually been looking at that masterpiece of yours all along, and it truly is an impressive piece of work. Despite the large size of the head, the muscles and bones around the neck are strong enough to keep it upright. I also observed that the muscle fibers around the mouth have grown thicker and more powerful. After this praise, he extends his hand to his opponent. While I intend to win, I still wish you a good match. The opposing player is surprised by this. He has never been treated this way before. After shaking OCO's hand, he says, "This is the first time anyone has shaken my hand without caring about how I look." Later, the player shows up with his knight, looking happy. He talks about OCO. He says that OCO does not care about his ugliness. He adds that OCO is a genuinely kind person. He then looks at OCO and says, "We have succeeded, and I will definitely show you the perfect beauty I have created." The scene changes to the first matches of the competition. This is the beginning of the Corpse War, with 3 qualifying rounds. After the 3 rounds, 1,000 players will be chosen from all the participants to go to the next stage. OCO tells Eleonora, "The rules of these rounds are always changing, so it's hard to prepare for them. But in the end, it's simple. If you win 2 matches, you qualify. If you lose 4, you're out." He pulls out a small device. "This will be a great help to us," he says. She does not understand what it is. He explains, "It's a magical communication device." OCO adds, "I changed it so you can wear it on your ear. We can talk from up to 300 meters away." He further explains, "We can hear each other clearly, no matter how loud or soft our voices are. Also, only the person wearing it can hear the other's voice." Eleonora takes the device and puts it on her ear. "You idiot," she says. "Can you hear me now?" "Yes, I can," he replies. "Stop acting weird. I had to sell half of my furniture and belongings to buy this, so don't waste it." Eleonora says, "These competitions are fun, just like you said." She then asks, "Aren't you going to test the device first?" OCO explains, "The competition is about sorcerer's skills, but certain accessories are allowed within limits." He then says, "The arena has a strong magical field. It stops communication devices from working, except for users within the arena itself. We can't talk to anyone outside the battlefield using this device." Eleonora understands. OCO asks, "Are you ready? Our first match is about to begin." OCO and Eleonora arrive at the battlefield. An official is waiting for them. The official tells OCO, "Step onto the platform to start the match." OCO ascends, standing at a great height. Eleonora remains in the arena, preparing to face the knight. He belongs to his opponent, who goes by the name Wing. At that moment, OCO notices the absence of spectators in the arena. However, he is not surprised, as he expected this. After all, it is only a preliminary round, and no one is interested in watching unknown players. The official then announces the completion of the player's readiness check and officially declares the start of the first match. Standing still, OCO closes his eyes, attempting to calm himself and focus. He reminds himself that the presence of an audience is not important right now. What truly matters is concentrating and winning the match. The official then instructs the players to prepare as the battle is about to begin. At that moment, OCO calls out to Eleonora enthusiastically, urging her to show the world their strength. Without hesitation, Eleonora dashes into the arena at high speed, heading toward the opposing knight, while both OCO and the rival player closely observe her. Suddenly, she stumbles and falls hard. Immediately, she contacts OCO through the communication device, reproaching him for not slowing her foot movements as they had agreed. He responds, explaining that he had indeed moved slowly, but it was her excessive speed that caused the fall. Frustrated, Eleonora gets up, visibly upset, and tells OCO that she's annoyed by what is happening. She then declares that she will move in her own way, asking him to simply keep up with her. She then surges forward again at high speed toward the opposing knight. However, just as she gets close and prepares to attack, she's caught off guard by his ability to leap high into the air with a frog-like agility. At that moment, OCO reminds her that the objective of the battle is to destroy the knight's core, explaining that the core is represented by the red crystal inside his body. He also emphasizes the importance of protecting her own core, especially since their chances of winning depend on close-range attacks, while their defensive options are extremely limited. He then begins guiding her to move cautiously and analyze the enemy's movements. However, she abruptly interrupts him, arguing that doing so would be a waste of time, giving the enemy an opportunity to strategize against them. She adds that this is especially problematic since they have yet to reach an adequate running speed. Deciding not to waste time on analysis, she immediately charges forward, announcing her intention to block the enemy's path. She leaps high into the air in an attempt to strike, but the frog-like knight skillfully evades the attack once again, outmaneuvering her. In that instant, OCO realizes that he and Eleonora are struggling to synchronize their movements. He also notices that her motion is slow. This is due to her relying on a single foot. This makes their actions predictable and easy for the enemy to read. He then observes that the frog is distancing itself rather than attacking. This prompts him to wonder about its true strategy. His attention suddenly shifts to the creature's back, where he notices something unusual. Meanwhile, Wing addresses OCO. "Are these all the skills you have to offer?" he asks. He then cryptically remarks that strength is sometimes found in unexpected places. Continuing, he explains, "I have been carefully studying your movements, but now I believe that it was not worth the effort. As a result," he declares, "this battle will end immediately. I promise to reveal my masterpiece to you, OCO." Suddenly, the dark circles on the frog's back begin transforming into human-like faces. The player announces, "You are about to witness perfect beauty." Seeing these faces, Eleonora turns to OCO. "What about what you said earlier?" she questions. "About needing to conceal faces to avoid recognition?" He replies, "These are not ordinary human faces." Wing resumes speaking. "I've spent my entire life searching for ideal proportions and perfection," he reveals. "That's how I achieved these faces." He adds, "I see no reason to hide them. They do not belong to real individuals. Rather, they represent the embodiment of perfect beauty, one that is about to detonate and cannot be stopped." As OCO processes these words and focuses on the frog's body, he suddenly realizes the truth. "Eleonora," he urgently warns, "these things are about to explode." Indeed, the faces are rushing toward Eleonora at an incredible speed. She remains frozen in place, still not fully grasping what is happening. The moment one of these faces touches her, a massive explosion erupts. When the blast subsides, it becomes clear that Eleonora has lost her left arm. OCO immediately contacts her through the communication device. "Are you all right?" he asks. She responds by asking, "Was it you who stopped the explosives from completely hitting me?" He explains, "I sacrificed my left arm, using my own body to shield you from the blast." He then warns her, "Any further direct hits could be extremely dangerous. You need to be cautious." Eleonora informs OCO. The faces are moving, then transforming into living creatures. "Is the player directing them to chase me?" she asks. However, OCO clarifies that once these faces detach from the knight's body, they are no longer under any control. He adds that they remain alive for only a very short time, meaning their movement is strictly linear, without targeting any specific objective. He then explains that these explosives appear to have been created by combining the enzymatic degradation products of toxic amphibians, noting that this type of compound only detonates upon violent impact with something. Eleonora quickly deduces the situation, but before she can finish her thought, one of these explosive faces approaches her. She swiftly evades it. As expected, the explosion occurs immediately upon its collision with another object. Eleonora then concludes that she must completely avoid these airborne entities. As a result, she feels a surge of excitement, as if she has returned to the battles she fought before her death. She then declares that, for the first time since the fight began, she feels her blood boiling. At that moment, she spots another explosive face approaching and decides that the battle is now different. It will be a fight worthy of her. Just before the explosive face reaches her, she moves swiftly out of its path, causing the explosives to collide with one another, yet she successfully dodges them each time. Wing laughs mockingly and then questions Ocio, asking how long he plans to keep running, especially since his knight isn't even capable of running properly in the first place. After that, Wing maneuvers his frog, making it leap high into the air before launching a barrage of explosives toward Eleonora. Eleonora dashes forward at high speed, skillfully avoiding most of the incoming explosives, despite their sheer number. However, suddenly she finds one of the explosive faces dangerously close to her, about to strike her directly. Ocio attempts to synchronize her right foot's movement with her left, but he fails, resulting in an explosion occurring alarmingly close to Eleonora's body. She crashes to the ground following the explosion, which nearly costs her life. Ocio tells her that this is the limit. They cannot exceed without achieving precise movement. Otherwise, they will never win. He then continues, explaining that he has spent the past moments analyzing the reasons behind her failed footwork and has discovered that the main cause is a lack of trust. He elaborates that since her right foot is not originally part of her body, her strength unconsciously concentrates on her right side, leading to an imbalance with every step she takes. He asserts that for her to move correctly, she must trust him and stop constantly thinking about her right foot. He begins to say that she should, but before he can finish, Eleonora interrupts him with a direct question. How is she supposed to trust him? She then sharply adds, "You're not the one actually fighting, yet you expect me to trust you while you remain at a safe distance, merely moving your fingers?" Rising to her feet once more, she confronts him. "You need to understand, I cannot trust anyone who is not willing to risk their life alongside me." At that moment, Ocio falls silent, unable to respond as he watches her continue to evade all incoming attacks. Eleonora keeps running, dodging each explosive, but eventually, she falls to the ground again. At that moment, Ocio speaks, declaring, "This is my last chance as well." He begins telling his story, revealing, "I was born in a garbage dump, a place despised by all, and my father always looked down on me, treating me in the worst way possible." He explains, "I spent my entire life as an outcast, ignored by people who treated me as nothing more than worthless trash, and no matter how much I spoke, no one ever understood my feelings." At that moment, Ocio recalls the shadow of his father, who always looked at him as a failure. Continuing his story, he states, "If I fail to prove myself now, to that man who despised me all his life, and to the entire world, I will never be able to escape the garbage dump I was born into." He adds, "If I do not become the best, and if everyone does not acknowledge it, I will never be able to prove to my father that he was wrong." He then asserts, "Meeting Eleonora was my last chance to understand the meaning of life," emphasizing, "I am not asking her to trust me, but rather to trust in my determination and unwavering resolve to win." Eleonora stands in silence, contemplating his words, but she does not respond. Suddenly, a new wave of explosive faces begins its attack. Eleonora swiftly dashes away from the blast zone, and for the first time, she confidently steps forward on her right foot. She then continues running at full speed, without any hesitation about the right foot that Ocio had crafted for her. Watching her with overwhelming joy, Ocio cheers her on, telling her that she has finally succeeded in running before asking her to trust in him. But she interrupts him, clarifying, "You should not misunderstand my words." She firmly states, "Your past or the sincerity of your story does not matter to me in the slightest." Ocio fails to grasp what she means, so Eleonora elaborates, explaining, "I am now placing my bet on my own judgment of you. based on your past actions, since you have already saved my life twice. She tries to move forward steadily, but her steps are still not perfectly balanced. She admits that she has not yet reached the desired level. But Osio interrupts her, pointing out that the reasons are irrelevant. Now that she has managed to leap high while running, avoiding the explosives will become much easier. He then adds that less than half of the explosives remain. Once they are dealt with, the knight will be nothing more than a giant frog, giving them the chance to get close. Indeed, the explosives continue to hurl toward Eleonora one after another, but she effortlessly dodges each of them, without allowing any to detonate near her. Osio begins counting the remaining explosives on the frog's body. Wing appears visibly frustrated upon hearing that only 6 remain. Osio keeps counting down until only 1 remains. When it finally explodes, he declares to Eleonora that they have finally finished. At that moment, Eleonora tells him that this is their chance to get close to the frog. So she surges toward it, preparing for a direct attack. However, just as she approaches, the frog leaps astonishingly high. It quickly distances itself, preventing her from landing a hit. Pressing her right foot down with confidence, Eleonora readies herself to leap and strike the frog. She is determined that this time will be different from all previous attempts. But she is suddenly shocked to see new explosives appearing in place of the ones that had just been eliminated. She freezes in disbelief at what is happening. Wing laughs and tells Osio that he underestimated him. He explains that he had 10 reserve explosives hidden inside his knight for such situations. He then launches all 10 explosives at once toward Eleonora. She stands her ground against the attack with a determined spirit. She tells Osio that this is her battle, and she will emerge victorious. Osio begins directing her, advising her not to focus on the explosives descending from above, but instead to strike the ground beneath her. Eleonora immediately understands his intent. Instead of trying to evade the approaching explosives, she slams her fist into the ground with immense force. This triggers a massive explosion that devastates everything around her, leaving Wing speechless as he watches in disbelief. He questions the cause of such a large explosion, insisting that it was not the result of his own explosives. When the dust settles, Eleonora emerges from the wreckage. She tells Osio that his decision was absolutely correct. He responds by remarking that her punch carried an incredible destructive force, shattering the ground around her. He then adds that it felt as if he had detonated a bomb rather than merely witnessing her land a punch. However, he admits that he was taking a gamble, uncertain of the outcome or the full effect of the technique she used. Eleonora replies, beginning to explain the technique she had just utilized. But suddenly, Osio recalls that he had previously asked her if she could use this technique only once. At that time, she had explained that the technique works by concentrating all her energy and strength into her fist. After executing the attack, her hand turns completely black, just as it is now. Sure enough, her hand appears charred, like coal. She then moves her fingers, explaining that her hand will gradually return to normal, but it will take approximately 4 hours to gather enough energy for another strike of the same magnitude. Osio tells her that this means she cannot use the technique more than once in any battle. He then pauses for a moment before asking her about the possible consequences if she were to use her fist in its current state. Eleonora replies that she had used it twice in succession before meeting him. Then, she asks him about her current physical condition. He responds by reminding her that she is already missing a limb. He also points out that when he first saw her, there was a severe wound near her heart. She confirms that using the technique twice in a row makes her body incapable of withstanding its aftereffects. As she recalls the shattered red crystal, a look of concern and fear appears on her face. She then states that this means her heart will explode and that she will die. Osio snaps back to the present, reiterating that this technique can only be used once. However, he still struggles to determine the best way to utilize it. He looks at Eleonora standing before the frog, then remarks that the same rule applies to the frog knight. Eleonora responds confidently, saying that this is the perfect time for a real battle between warriors using only their fists. At that moment, the massive frog watches Eleonora as she approaches, preparing to attack her, convinced that she will be its next meal. But in a fraction of a second, Eleonora moves at an astonishing speed, landing a direct punch to its heart, shattering the red crystal within its body. Immediately, the official overseeing the match announces that the frog is no longer able to fight due to the critical injury to its core, declaring Osio's team the victors. When OCO hears the result and realizes that he has won the battle, he can hardly believe it. He lets out a triumphant shout, declaring himself the winner. Afterward, the players leave the arena, and in the private chamber shared by OCO and Eleonora, OCO excitedly praises her, expressing his joy and admiration for her performance, especially during the final part of the battle. He also tells her that her name truly suits her, and that she deserves the title of the greatest warrior. Eleonora remains silent for a moment before replying that he was actually better than she had expected. OCO responds, "We must maintain this energy and level of performance for the next battle." But at that moment, a voice from outside the room remarks, "Everything was perfect this time." When he turns to the source of the voice, he finds Wing standing next to the body of his knight. Wing declares, "I have finally achieved perfect beauty." OCO feels a sense of sympathy for Wing and sincerely tells him, "Your knight was incredibly strong." Wing is taken aback by OCO's words and asks, "Do you truly mean it?" OCO affirms, "Your knight was indeed very powerful." He then adds, "The knight you created, along with the abilities you integrated into it, clearly reflected the immense effort and passion you put into your work. However," he points out, "it was perhaps too perfect." Wing is overjoyed and tells OCO, "This is the first time someone has praised my work in such a way. Thank you for your understanding." However, OCO explains, "The only issue I noticed was that you care too much about others' opinions." He then tells him, "Beauty is subjective, and it would be better if you started showcasing beauty as you perceive it, rather than how others expect it to be." Wing is surprised by these words, yet at the same time, he feels a deep sense of happiness. He then asks OCO, "Do you truly believe in this idea?" After a brief pause, a wide smile appears on his face, and he admits, "This is an incredible concept, one I had never considered before." Thanks to OCO's words, Wing feels overwhelming joy. He then tells OCO, "I will always follow your journey, watching as you continue to grow into one of the greatest sorcerers." He also assures him, "I will be one of your biggest supporters." He adds, "I am certain you will achieve your goal." Deeply moved by Wing's words and excitement, OCO senses his sincerity. Wing, filled with excitement after his conversation with OCO, declares, "I too will surprise the world with a new knight I am going to create, one that will be more beautiful and powerful than any I have ever built before." Scene shift. OCO and Eleonora return to OCO's home. Suddenly, Eleonora's voice is heard shouting, "Ellie." Moments later, OCO appears, trying to convince her to start calling herself by this name. He argues, Eleonora is too long and difficult to pronounce during battle, and a shorter, quicker name would be more effective. However, Eleonora becomes furious, warning him seriously, "Do not joke about such matters." She asserts, "If you believe we have become friends, you are mistaken," emphasizing that no one has ever dared to call her by that name before. OCO attempts to calm her down, urging her to think about it rationally. He explains, "In certain situations, a single second can make the difference between victory and defeat." He then shows the difference. He says Eleonora out loud, showing how long it takes to pronounce. Then, he says Ellie, highlighting the speed and ease of the shorter name. Eleonora remains silent, not responding. OCO then tells her that a shorter name is undoubtedly more efficient, and that winning a battle is far more important than the name they call each other. After some thought, Eleonora finally agrees, but insists that this name be used only during combat. She then asks him about the next battle and the identity of their opponent. OCO explains that they have an entire week to fine-tune and improve their knight's performance before the fight. However, he points out another issue. The opponents are chosen randomly. Hearing this, Eleonora asks why such a system is used. Raising his hand, OCO points to the skull emblem attached to his clothing, explaining that it serves as an identity badge, proving that its bearer is a sorcerer, and they are required to wear it at all times. He then elaborates that the skull's color and shape change based on a sorcerer's competition results. His black-colored skull indicates that he is among the lowest-ranked sorcerers or those who were eliminated in the second qualification round. He adds that sorcerers are classified into 7 different ranks according to their abilities, with each rank having a distinct skull color and design. Eleonora deduces that since rankings are based on previous competition results, the higher a sorcerer's rank, the stronger they are. OCO confirms her assumption and further explains that the random system can sometimes result in a match between a bronze-ranked 6th-tier sorcerer and a diamond-ranked 3rd-tier opponent. If luck is particularly bad, They could even face an emerald-ranked second-tier sorcerer. Eleonora expresses her concern, noting that her movement is still not entirely stable and that facing a high-ranked opponent would be a significant problem for OCO. At that moment, OCO picks up the envelope containing the name of their upcoming opponent. Upon opening it and seeing the name, a look of shock appears on his face. The scene shifts to a more luxurious setting where another player is seated, discussing the next round of qualification matches. Meanwhile, a girl beside him holds an envelope containing the name of his opponent. He asks her about the identity of his challenger. She informs him that the available information is insufficient, but she confirms that the opponent is a novice sorcerer participating in the competition for the first time. Upon hearing this, the player smirks confidently and declares that this preliminary round will be ridiculously easy for them. His overconfidence quickly becomes understandable as the skull he wears is revealed, marked with the color of the first rank. That's all for today. For the next part, make sure to subscribe my channel Fire Recap. And you don't forget to share and like the video. I am out.